Hello, my name is Kevin Howard, and I'm the host of Breadcrumbs, a podcast for people who know it's not working. Welcome to episode 35, called The Enemy of My Enemy is Not My Friend. You have reached the YouTube cut for this episode. This is a 15-minute abbreviated version of the full episode, just enough to let you know the quality of the content we offer here at Breadcrumbs. If you enjoy this YouTube cut, click the link below, join the Breadcrumbs community on Patreon as a standard member. It costs $10 a month. But for your $10, you will get some free prizes worth over $20 that are currently for sale on Amazon. You will also get the backup research that supports and validates the content of the episodes I provide here on Breadcrumbs. You will also get my direct email that allows us to deepen the conversation. So enjoy this YouTube cut, then click the link below and join the community. You take care, and I'll see you next time in the conversation. What makes Tulsi Gabbard so polarizing? Tulsi is fiercely independent. This is a 22-year combat veteran who opposes the use of military force unless the actual national security interests of the country is at stake. She opposes the forever wars. And yet there are a cottage industry of vets and the military industrial complex that is making a fortune off the forever wars. So that makes her very controversial. She spoke out against President Obama's decision to intervene in the war in Syria to overthrow President Assad. Let's understand this. She was both a combat veteran and she was a member of the Armed Services Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Homeland Security Committee. So she had access to the intelligence that would tell us, was Assad using chemical weapons against his own people? We know that was the public narrative, but what did our intelligence tell us? She had access to that. She had access to who were our allies on the ground, who were the insurgents on the ground, who were trying to overthrow Assad. Because in that information, as she said at her confirmation hearing, the reason why she opposed Obama's decision to join the insurgency against President Assad. And that's because one of the allies was Al-Qaeda. She joined the military in the first place, inspired to defend our country in response to the worst terrorist attack in our history. And so she has said it, and I will say it here. This is an example of when the enemy of my enemy is not my friend. If Assad is our enemy, we're not going to make friends with Al-Qaeda to overthrow him. She said she would not dishonor the deaths of over 3,000 Americans by thinking that Assad, who never killed 3,000 Americans, is more of an enemy to America than Al-Qaeda. And I stand with her. By the way, I too am a military veteran. So yeah, she opposed the darling of the Democratic establishment, Obama, in his decision to intervene in Syria. She resigned her role as co-chair of the Democratic Party in the year that the Democrats pushed Hillary forward as their nominee. And yeah, pushed her forward is the factual truth. So let's talk about that now. She resigned as co-chair of the Democratic Party in order to endorse Bernie Sanders. As we have talked about, Tulsi Gabbard is more of a centrist Democrat. Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist who most of his life was an independent. He is to the left of Tulsi and most of the establishment Democrats. Hillary is the establishment Democrat, much more of a centrist, probably closer to Tulsi Gabbard than Bernie Sanders is. So what gives here? Well, Tulsi Gabbard, as co-chair of the Democratic National Committee, was aware of the fact of the committee's role in influencing the outcome of the Democratic primaries leading to the election in 2016. She had access to the information that shows that the Democratic National Committee and the Clintons had cut a deal to influence the superdelegates. The way the Democratic Party picks their nominee for the president for the general election is they have a series of primaries and caucuses through the 50 states of the United States. And based on how many votes you get in those caucuses and in those primaries, you get the lion's share of the delegates are available there. But there's also about 600 delegates that go to elected officials in the Democratic Party, the largest of the donors, what have you. So these are Democratic Party leaders, most of them elected officials. And so what the DNC did in 2016 is they made a deal with the superdelegates who were elected officials. And that deal was, if you declare in favor of Hillary Clinton before the Iowa caucus, before the votes start, and you stay with her throughout the entire primary season, and then you vote for her at the convention in August, and she gets the nominee, we will allow you to participate in the general election fundraising that we're going to engage in for the general election. Essentially a bribe. And what happened? 95% of the superdelegates committed to Hillary Clinton before the first vote was taken. That's the start of the shenanigans. But it's worse. Then the Democratic media, and I call it the Democratic media because they're complete shills, in the same way that there's Republican media that are complete shills. Yeah, both sides do the same damn thing. The Democratic media then started to report the delegate count, not based on the delegates that were being cast, the votes in every state that they occurred. And that shows you who was in the lead. But they also started reporting everyone's totals, assuming that the superdelegates' votes were cast. Now, this is what your delegate count would look like. And what that did is it always showed Hillary having this tremendous advantage, notwithstanding how successful Bernie Sanders was in the actual Democratic caucuses and primaries. So these kind of shenanigans, and there are others, Tulsi Gabbard was aware as the chair of the Democratic National Committee, and she resigned. The idea that Tulsi Gabbard didn't want to support a woman, no, of course she does, but not under these circumstances, not in the face of the votes of the Democratic electorate. And let's not get it twisted. The supporters of Bernie Sanders sued the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party in federal court. And the Democratic Party went to federal court and they expressly said, check it out, that the Democratic Party is a private party and that the Democratic Party does not have to listen to Democratic voters in the selection of their nominee. Yes, that's what these people think. That's exactly what they said in federal court. And to tell you how much power controls both the parties and the courts endorsed that. Tulsi Gabbard was aware that they were interfering in the selection of the Democratic nominee. It was not being decided by Democratic voters. This is supposed to be a democracy, not in the Democratic Party. How about that? So she resigned and she endorsed the person who actually had the energy and the votes of the Democratic electorate. It wasn't that she aligned in everything that Bernie Sanders was saying. It was that he was the choice of the Democratic electorate, and it was being interfered. It was being denied by the Democratic Party. She decides to leave the Democratic Party in 2022. And what does she say? She says, I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that is now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers. Tulsi Gabbard's number one issue is to oppose the forever wars. Democratic presidents have run the United States through 8 years of Clinton. Then you have 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Biden. The forever wars were established under the Clinton administration, expanded under the Bush administration, continued under the Obama administration, and absolutely escalated. War in Ukraine, genocide in Gaza by the Biden administration. Okay, so it wasn't just Republicans who wanted the war. It was both establishing political parties. And so she said she left. She was pushed out, really. There was no place for her, even though they did identify her as a rising star. That's why they appointed her a co-chair in 2013. Okay. And then 2024, she joins the Republican Party. Why? To hold hands with Mitch McConnell and the Dick Cheney wing and the George W. Bush wing? No. Whatever you want to think about Donald Trump, he is anti-establishment. Yeah, I know you don't believe it. He's a billionaire like the rest of the billionaires. But where he divides from extreme wealth, the oligarchs, is that, and I won't digress too far in this, is that in the 90s, he decided, I don't want to work so hard and do all this damn commercial real estate, particularly in the New York metropolitan area, which is a lion's den, like his father did. He decided to shift from making his bones doing real estate deals to being the face, the marketing, the face of luxury. Check out his episode of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous in 1994. Check out how he went on all the liberal talk shows, Donahue, Oprah, all of them in the late 80s, early 90s. Check out all his time on, in the society papers. He built a new persona that brought him to the front of the camera, outside of the back rooms of commercial real estate. And he wanted to be the face, the brand of luxury and success. And that's what he built. But the problem is, the people who were extreme wealth, they viewed the image of extreme wealth that Donald Trump presents as horrible. They hated it. Okay? There was a divide. They did not accept him as the face of luxury, of extreme success. I won't bother to say the depths of the contempt, but suffice it to say, this is where they divided. And Donald Trump, yes, he has an ego. He resents the fact that they have never accepted him. But this is where they are. And so when he decided to come into politics in a serious way, he feels they have betrayed him. And so he is not trying to help them. In fact, he has identified how they make their money, and he's dismantling that. That doesn't mean he's dismantling the way all wealthy people make their money. No. But he makes his money in an old school kind of way, the way money used to be made. And they have made their money, I'll give you a hint, by looting the federal treasury. Hello. You've reached the end of episode 35. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. The YouTube cut. If you've enjoyed this excerpt and you want to get the complete episode video version, click the link below. Join the Breadcrumbs community on Patreon as a standard member. The cost is $10 a month. But for your $10 a month, you're going to get free prizes that is worth over $20. You will also get all the episodes, video versions complete. You will also get the extended research that goes into these episodes. And finally, you will get direct email access to me, where we can deepen the conversation. So, click the link below, join the community, and I'll see you next time in the conversation.